Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Framingham. I'm Leslie Simpson. I serve on the Board of Assessors, Caritas, the Learning English for Adults program, and the DEEP team. I use his, she, her pronouns, and I will be your worship associate this morning. First Parish in Framingham is a welcoming congregation. We celebrate and welcome people of all sexual orientations, races, ages, gender identities, abilities, or beliefs. We welcome you if you are joining us in the meeting house, on Zoom, or if you're watching this service at a later time. Whoever you are, whoever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. Unitarian Universalism is a progressive, inclusive faith guided by moral principles such as the worth and dignity of all. We draw inspiration from world religions and philosophies, science, history, and the arts. I draw your attention to the announcements in the order of service. Immediately following our service, you are invited to join us for our coffee hour in Scott Hall across the courtyard. For the safety and comfort of all, please remember to keep your mask on at all times when you are inside a First Parish building, unless you are actively eating or drinking. Please also turn your phones and other devices that might make noise to their quietest setting. Finally, I offer this. Since 1701, people just like you have gathered at this church, seeking peace and seeking meaning. We come here to rest or to be recharged, to be challenged or affirmed. We work to support deeper connections, individual growth, and sustaining and maintaining this beloved community. You belong here, maybe only for the next hour, but we hope for longer. You belong here and we are happy to have you with us. I now invite you to settle into this space. Take a comfortable breath in and out. Continue to take a few more comfortable breaths over the next few moments. Begin to let go of what you need to let go of to be more fully present to yourself, one another, and the sacred in this time and place. A flame within a chalice is a primary symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. To symbolize the light of reason and the warmth of community and the flame of hope, it is our tradition to begin our worship by kindling the flame of our chalice. We light this chalice in recognition of the sacredness of time and inspired by the rest and renewal that Sabbath offers. May this holy time together remind us to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to find the peace that comes with letting go of our everyday worries and concerns. May this time also inspire us to create a more just and equitable world, where all people have the opportunity to rest and thrive. Please rise. Oops.
Sorry for the interruption on the normal liturgy. I have two things to share. First of all, a big welcome to our guest co-preacher today, Rabbi Sam Blumberg. Rabbi Sam, and I'm just reading from the Temple Beth Am bio, so I hope it's all accurate. Rabbi Sam has been with the Temple Beth Am community since July of 2020, so we are brothers in beginning ministry positions in COVID, so we have bonded a little bit over that. And he was ordained as a rabbi from Hebrew College in 2021. Born and raised in Southern California, he earned a bachelor's degree in religious studies. Working as a substitute teacher for a little while in Northern California, he then spent 3 years living in Jerusalem. studying at the Pardis Institute and earning a master's degree in Jewish education. He then spent 5 years teaching Judaic studies, Jewish studies to middle school students before embarking on the path to the rabbinate. The other thing that I have to share today is from time to time we light a memorial candle when a member of our congregation has died. And today we light our memorial candle for Faith Waters. Faith had been a member of First Parish since 1956. She died on Monday. Details on a memorial service to be held here will be forthcoming. So let us light our memorial candle and sit in the quiet of this space, and may her memory be a blessing to us all. And now let us rise in body or spirit, both work just fine, to sing our opening hymn, Find a Stillness. It's number 352. And then I invite you to remain standing as able for our sung and spoken affirmations.
This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Strauss. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here at First Parish. I use she, her pronouns. And this morning, I have a story that I wrote. This is not about me. This is a work of fiction. from the point of view of a child who's about 12 years old. When I was little, we didn't keep the Sabbath the way we do now. Both my parents worked full time, and I went to school and after school until one of them could come pick me up. On Friday night, we lit the Shabbat candles, but the rest of Shabbat, we were busy. Then the pandemic came and we all had to stay home. Mom and Mama were both stressed out. I was only 9, but I could tell they were stressed, trying to help me do all my schoolwork while they were both trying to work from home. A couple of months into the pandemic, Mom suggested that we be a little more mindful about keeping Sabbath. What would that look like? Mama asked. Well, after we light the candles, we would rest until Saturday evening at sundown. Wait, said Mama. That means no turning on lights and electronic devices, no TV, no elevators, no video games. That didn't sound great. I didn't even have a chance to whine about it before Mom said that's all true, but we have lots of time to play video games and watch TV. We would make our Shabbat really special family time. We have been working too hard, Mama admitted. We're all together, but it still feels stressful, said Mom, trying to do school and work and get some exercise, and we're not even allowed to go to a movie. Yeah, said Mama. I nodded. When the pandemic started, I thought it was going to be fun to miss school for a few weeks, but now it looked like it was going to keep going. Online school was no fun, and I couldn't see my friends, and it made me feel like crying sometimes. Okay, Mama said finally, we'll try it. I want to try for at least a few weeks, said Mom. It's probably not going to go perfectly the first time. I want to give it a chance. Mama nodded, and they both looked at me. Are you in? Well, I said, I don't think I'm going to like it, but I'll try it if it's only for a few weeks. Mom was right. The first time it didn't go perfectly. We didn't have any milk for breakfast, so we had to eat our cereal dry. And we weren't sure about some of the rules. Can you flush a toilet? Was that work? What about tying shoes and using zippers? We played cards by candlelight after dinner, but we had to stop playing when the candles burnt out, and we all went to bed really early. But we went out for a walk on Saturday with our masks on. My friend Mary Beth was out for a walk with her family at the same time. So for a little while, we walked together. It was the first time I'd seen one of my friends in months in person. On Saturday night, we had a family meeting to review the experiment. We talked about the things that didn't feel great about it and the things that did. I didn't like going to bed at 7:30. Mom didn't either, but Mama said she thought she had an idea. The next week, we all stopped working on Friday right after school was over. There were still a few hours until sundown, so Mom started cooking dinner. Mama ordered groceries online and went to pick them up. Mom put lunch meat and sliced tomato and lettuce and pieces of bread on a platter in the fridge for Saturday lunch. Mama spent some time on her tablet doing something she wouldn't let us see. My job was to find games for us to play on Friday night and things to do on Saturday. I got out the Cthulhu Flux game and Rory's Story Cubes, and I put out a stack of books I wanted to read and paints and canvases so we could do some painting together on Saturday. A half hour before sundown, we set the table and put all the food out. At 18 minutes before sundown, we lit the Shabbat candles and said the blessing. We challenged ourselves to light all 3 candles with 1 match. Usually, we can only manage 2. We ate our meal as it got darker and darker, except for the cheerful light of the Shabbat candles. Then, as it got really dark and I was afraid we wouldn't be able to see to play any games, the lights came on automatically. Mama had programmed Alexa to turn the lights on and off for us. Isn't that cheating? Said Mom, laughing. I don't think so, said Mama. People do things in advance all the time so they're ready for Shabbat. Why not have Alexa turn on the lights? When I was a little girl, Mom said, Mom, and we would go to Grandma's for Shabbat, Grandma would get my mom to turn on the TV on Friday nights since Mom wasn't Jewish. Does that mean Alexa isn't Jewish? I asked. That week, our Shabbat was much better than the first week. We had planned for everything in advance, mindfully, Mom said. Even quiet time was fun. Back then, I would stack up all the things I wanted to do during that time so I wouldn't get bored, like books, paints, crafts, making cards for friends. But later on, I started taking part of quiet time to just sit and let my mind wander. We kept our Sabbath practice all through the pandemic, and then things started opening up, and I wondered if we would go back to our old busy weekends. But Mom said, I've already told my boss, I'm only going to work 4 days a week. I'll get all the Sabbath food prepared on Fridays. And then Mama said that she would finish work in time to pick me up right after school on Fridays. I'll do the shopping, and Lonnie can get all their weekend homework done before sundown, she told us. At first, I did not think that was such a good idea, but then I realized I would have the whole weekend with no homework. Shabbat is special for our family, and I think everyone should have special rest time in their week. Shabbat Shalom. And now we will sing our children and teachers and whoever else wants to come to religious exploration.
I am Elizabeth Kavanaugh Murphy, ministerial intern here at First Parish, and I use she, her pronouns. As you know, in our community, there is great joy and there is also great sorrow. We set aside this time because we know that joy shared is joy expanded, and sorrow shared can feel as though someone is lifting a burden. Remember, you are always welcome to write down your joys or sorrows in this book kept at the back of the sanctuary, or you can submit them online each week. We will intersperse our joys and sorrows with hymn number 1002, Comfort Me, which is listed in the smaller teal hymnal. First, Erin L. shares this sorrow. I was laid off from my job. Heather C. writes with uncertainty, I'm thinking of Marla, a friend. Her heart is failing. The hospital is trying to get her onto a list for a replacement. Vicky K. writes and Sarah M. concurs. Faith Waters, longtime church and choir member, passed away this week. After declining health, she was a driving force for a lot of First Parish projects, including the Steeple Project. She will be missed. Diane shares, I'm thinking of my brother-in-law who's experiencing the challenge of difficult health decisions with complex family circumstances. And now let us sing the first verse of Comfort Me together. Comfort me, comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. next lift up the joys of our congregation. Valerie M. shares, "My husband Cameron will be 90 years old this week." And Mary Ann O. writes, "I'm thinking of my architect dad who died 20 years ago on March 14th. He was a tremendous coach." And now we'll sing the second verse of Comfort Me. The lyric is "Sing with me." And as always, we light one final candle for all of the joys and sorrows which are deeply felt yet remain unspoken. We will close this ritual by singing the third verse of Comfort Me. The lyric is "Speak for me." Let us continue now in prayerful contemplation. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, divine spark who dwells within us all. It is so good to be together. Though perhaps a bit harder to get out of bed on this morning, by this evening we will recognize that stretching daylight as a signal of spring's imminence. We feel your divine presence among all those who have gathered here for worship. This hour, this community, and each of and every one of us who are a part of it are sacred. We are grateful for the varied nourishments we provide one another. Pouring coffee, cooking homemade soup, offering a listening ear or a warm smile. We pray for those who are suffering this morning, illness, uncertainty, the loss of employment, grieving the recent loss of a beloved friend or relative, cherishing memories. Perhaps holding burdens deeply inside, unsure how to share or even to name them. We offer our prayers too for those rejoicing in good fortune today, marking birthdays, joyous milestones, sweet memories, big and small. This helps to spread celebratory energy wherever we may go. May we always support one another in our struggles and our joys, for in both we experience what it means to be truly alive. We're all carrying the burdens of a hurting world and mounting concerns for the safety of our global neighbors. From wars, natural disasters and weather events, the cruelty of oppression and exploitation. We pray this morning for peace, both across the globe and in our own hearts. May we celebrate the power of rest and the crucial role it plays in restoring our bodies, minds, and souls. We recognize the divine mystery of one another and our unique places in the world community. maintaining reverence for all that sparks wonder and awe, and abundant hope for what is yet to come. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. Amen. We'll continue with our quiet contemplation for 1 minute. May you feel the love of this community from wherever you are. I'll keep the time. Amen. Is Deb here? I invite Deb forward to share with us.
My name is Deb Dubortia, and I've been a member of this congregation since 1980. David and I came from Methodist and Presbyterian backgrounds, but we found that the theology of Unitarian Universalism better matched our views. When we moved to Framingham in 1980, we immediately joined First Parish and were welcomed in. I had plenty of questions left from my own religious upbringing, and First Parish gave me the companionship and support to continue my exploration. I participated in groups which explored earth-centered spirituality and female modes of leadership. For men, there have always been activities here oriented around the interests of our men, which provide both intellectual growth and fellowship. First Parish is a place that celebrates the arts. I recall one powerful Moving West dance performance down that center aisle, an unforgettable moment. First Parish is where we made our lifetime friends. This is where we found our extended family, those who became godparents and honorary grandparents. Music is an integral part of our worship. I often read through the hymnal and marvel at how well these hymns capture our theology. David and I have been members of the choir for 4 decades. The choir has so greatly enriched our lives, both through the pleasure of creating music in many different styles and the connections that it fostered. I found my first voice teacher because the choir director brought her in to give us some coaching. The choir-sponsored madrigal dinner was an amazing conjunction of music, theater, and fellowship. When my daughter was born, I came to understand the truth that child rearing does take a village. Here was my village. I had the companionship of other parents who were at the same stage and could share my anxieties and offer ideas. Also, I had the reassurance of parents whose children were grown and could take the long view. We were so happy to raise our daughter in this church. I believe that children really need a community and a religious identity. Even though all organized religion faces challenges these days, it remains a big part of the American culture. For all its ambiguity, Unitarian Universalism is a religious identity, and it is meaningful to a child. It can be life-saving when they are teens and provide each other the refuge of a safe space in which to share their anxieties and give support. Speaking of the teen years, OLW, Our Whole Lives, is a truly unique curriculum. It is so well respected that just by word of mouth, we occasionally have non-UUs asking how they might get their teens into our program. First Parish is a beacon of light for interfaith partnership in these fractured times. I want to retell a story from many decades ago. When our neighboring Jewish synagogue was rebuilding and needed a place to meet, First Parish joyously gave them the use of our buildings for worship during the several years that were needed for their rebuilding. Temple Beth Am returned that favor to us by giving us the use of their beautiful social hall and kitchen for our spring dinner for many years. May this memory remain evergreen. Giving back to our community. Here are just a few of the many First Parish accomplishments. ESL classes, the diaper project, the free medical clinic, prison outreach, food pantry, family promise. And how about going green? First Parish was responsible for the creation of Framingham, the town of Framingham's recycling program. Also, we were early adopters of solar panels, and now we are a green sanctuary congregation. I wonder sometimes what I am doing to improve the world around me when I am so small, overwhelmed by my own life responsibilities, and personally not courageous. Then I recall that by supporting First Parish, by donating the funds that keep these buildings in good shape and this staff in action, I am supporting so many good works by people much more valiant than I. Thank you to all of you valiant people. It makes David and myself feel wonderful to know that we are part of an institution which has been contributing to our community for 3 centuries and will endure for many more. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I just want to put in one postscript. Thank you so much to Ruth Decker for those solar panels. Thanks to her bequest, now we own those. And that's just another example of how we are helping ourselves be a green sanctuary. Thank you, Ruth.
Good morning. I am Diane Bassett, and it is a joy to share with you information about our Share the Plate offering this month. Framingham Community Farm was started 6 years ago by my daughter Jess Kruger while she was in college. It emerged in part from a commitment to service that was nurtured right here through her involvement at First Parish. We are a small food pantry garden that partners with A Place to Turn in Natick to donate all of the food that we grow, more than 700 pounds last summer. The original site for the farm is Edwards Church in Saxonville, and for several years we partnered with Larry Decker to expand and maintain a second site at the First Parish Community Garden, with donations going to the nearby Smock Shelter on Edgell Road. The farm engages volunteers, young and old, individuals and organizations, to further the cause of food security for neighbors in Framingham and Metro West. In Massachusetts, Project Bread estimates that food insecurity affects 16.9% of all households as of January 23. That's lower than at the peak of the pandemic, of course, but it is more than double the pre-pandemic food insecurity level. Now, as pandemic-related food assistance programs come to an end, including the enhanced EBT benefits for families with children, there is particular concern about rising hunger among Massachusetts families with children. I arrived late to the joys of vegetable gardening, following along with Jess's interest and vision. But I continue to work with Framingham Community Farm because it allows me to live out the UU value of service in our wider community. For sure, community gardens will not fix the problem of hunger writ large, but they will make a difference locally with neighbors and friends who need our support. When Larry tends his community garden and donates his produce to the shelter right up the street, he's making a difference. When Framingham Community Farm starts tomato plants and gives them to the clients of the food pantry for them to grow at home, we're making a difference. And those 700 pounds of vegetables surely make a difference for hungry families. This is what it means to me to live out the word service is our prayer. We're tending to the earth with care. We're creating volunteer opportunity for others to give back, and we're providing healthy, nutritious produce for people in need. Because we depend on volunteers and work hard to seek donations, our operating budget is small. But each year, we pay for our use of water and compost to enrich our soil and other kinds of small essentials. With gratitude, I invite you to support the work of Framingham Community Farm through a donation to this Share the Plate offering. And of course, if you love to garden or might be interested in learning, join Larry Decker at his community garden plot or come on over to our Edwards Church site to prepare the beds, plant and weed and harvest. There is always good work to do. The morning's offering will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for your warm welcome this morning. Again, I'm Rabbi Sam Blumberg from just down the street at Temple Beth Am in Framingham. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm delighted to be here this morning. When it comes to the Jewish approach to the Sabbath, Shabbat, the seventh day of the week on which, according to the Torah's account, God finished the work of creation, chose rest, and declared that day holy, there are so many facets to explore. There's the biblical conception of Shabbat, the development of traditional Shabbat practice over the centuries. There's the idea of imitatio Dei, emulating God's example. We could look at modern interpretations and observances. The list goes on. But there's no substitute for the personal. And so this morning, I'd like to share with you primarily from my own lived experience of Sabbath keeping, which I must say I think dovetails nicely with Lauren's sharing this morning. Though I grew up attending synagogue services on a somewhat regular basis and spent several years deeply studying and teaching Jewish text and tradition, it wasn't until about 10 years ago, when I began developing a regular Shabbat practice, that I felt a true connection to holiness and experienced a divine presence in my own life. As my then fiance, now wife, and I were thinking about what kind of home we hoped to build together, we decided that we wanted to be more intentional about maintaining a rhythmic Shabbat practice that worked for us. Having both grown up in committed Jewish homes, but lacking a consistent Shabbat practice beyond a traditional Shabbat dinner, we decided that our Saturdays in particular should feel different. And on the other hand, we weren't so interested in the traditional strictures around keeping the Jewish Sabbath, which typically means no cooking, no driving or actively using electricity, no spending money. We didn't like that. We didn't want to feel limited by those no's in our lives and in our Shabbat practice. So we decided that we would instead hold up the positive aspects of Shabbat. We would do the things we wanted to do on Shabbat, but nothing we needed to do. That meant no shopping, no errands. But if we wanted to go on a hike or an aimless drive or take a long walk and get some ice cream, well, that's exactly what we would do. And it felt good. Not checking the calendar, not planning out every minute, just letting go for one day and putting aside the shoulds in my life. I really should do this or that. Felt expansive and whole. And it made me feel that much more prepared to focus my attention on a new week when it came. Gradually, the experience of Shabbat began to feel truly like a day set apart. And over a few years' time, my Shabbat practice continued to evolve. In order to make the day feel even more separate, more still, I chose to avoid weekday pleasures like listening to music and watching TV, and eventually moved to powering down my phone for the 25 hours of Shabbat. I found that I had come full circle. Some of those traditional restrictions I had initially set out to avoid suddenly came naturally. Saying no to some of the luxuries that define my weekday life formed the core of my Shabbat experience. I had found holiness through separation. It's no coincidence that this was also the time I decided without a doubt that I wanted to be a rabbi. The Hebrew word that means holy, kadosh, can also mean set apart. And it comes from a Hebrew root relating to separation or withdrawal. I have found that in order to sense holiness and divinity in my own life, maintaining that separation is paramount. In saying no to the mundane on Shabbat, I become more in tune to the separation between myself and something which is beyond me, something eternal, ever present, holy. I cannot fully explain it, but the way I hear cars driving down the street is different on Shabbat. Everything around me I experience differently. I notice that my heart rate slows on Shabbat. My stillness grows. I breathe more deeply. I'm more patient and less harried. As Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel describes in his exquisite yet slim volume called The Sabbath, he writes, "The seventh day is like a palace in time with a kingdom for all. It is not a date, but an atmosphere. It is not a different state of consciousness, but a different climate. It is as if the appearance of all things somehow changed. The primary awareness is one of our being within the Sabbath, rather than of the Sabbath being within us. The difference between the Sabbath and all the other days," he writes, "is not to be noticed in the physical structure of things, in their spatial dimension. Things do not change on that day. There is only a difference in the dimension of time, in the relation of the universe to God." End quote. There is so much that can be said about Sabbath keeping that speaks to its ethereal nature. But the practical considerations cannot be ignored. One challenge inherent in setting aside those shoulds beginning at sundown Friday through sunset on Saturday is the worry, the spilkes, the impatient anxiety and guilt that can come along with it. Shouldn't I really be working on that project or class I need to prepare for? I've already let that email sit in my inbox for 2 days. Can it really go another day unanswered? The answer, of course, is yes. But for these inevitable questions, I remind myself of a teaching from Mechilta de Rebbe Yishmael, a Jewish text from nearly 2,000 years ago that asks, is it really possible for a person to do their work in 6 days? Rather, it teaches, one should rest on the Sabbath as if all their work had been done. Or alternatively, on Shabbat, one should rest from thoughts of work. Shabbat is a valuable reminder to me that it can all wait. That it's okay to say, that's enough for now. To put creative work aside and to turn, as Rabbi Heschel taught, from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. In saying that's enough for now, in looking up from our screens and paying more attention to the world and those around us, to relax, to take a deep breath and spend quality time with family, friends, and community, can fill us with the wholeness and peace we need in order to keep going on the other 6 days. I still wear my Apple Watch on Shabbat, but when the sun goes down on Friday evening, I swipe to a basic face that tells me the time only. No thinking about what's next on my schedule, no to-do list, no exercise goal. I have found power, beauty, holiness, and divinity in creating separation in my life. In forcing myself into rest mode, even and especially when doing so is a challenge. May each one of us find a stillness, a holiness, the separation we all need and deserve, so that we can propel ourselves forward, working together the rest of the week to continue to fix our broken world. Amen. Thank you.
I forgot we said we were going to have some transition music, so. We live in an attention economy, and it does not have to be this way. There is always something vying for my attention, which means the things that I am able to pay attention to and want to pay attention to often get crowded out. According to Matthew Crawford, which is a different Matthew Crawford than ours here, the attention economy is an approach to the management of information that treats human attention as a commodity. Matt Crawford writes, "Attention is a resource. A person has only so much of it. In this moment, how many things are vying for your attention? Your body, your family, your to-do list, your email, the time, your social media accounts, your voicemail, that text message that you felt that you got during this service that you want to answer. Since I have been a full-time or over full-time religious professional, one of the key parts of my weekly rhythm has been the ability and the blessing to keep a Sabbath day. Now, because most of the public aspects of ministry occur on Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, and yes, sometimes preparation on a Saturday night, I've either kept a Sabbath day on Monday or Friday. This has been crucial, I think, to avoiding burnout, though over the years I've gotten crispy for sure, and that's when longer time is warranted. And one of the things that I had to learn early on in ministry was, what does a day off look like? That question in and of itself feels like a messed up thing to wonder, and it is worth considering for each of us. What do you need to do to feel like you are well rested, like you are recharged? What would a perfect day off include? And when you have a little bit more time, when you really want to sink into that feeling of recharge, what does that feel like? For me, there's a few ways that I know that I am resting or recharging. One is probably going on a hike somewhere. This puts me in touch with the seasonality of the natural world. There are no words that I can see or hear around me. My heart rate goes up as I move, and I pay attention to the quality of the ground beneath me. There are decisions to be made even before getting into the car. What conservation land am I going to? Then when I get there, what trail do I take? Where do I follow the trail exactly? How to step? Is the ground frozen, soft, muddy, or solid? And I take note of the leaves and trees around me: maple, oak, beech, sweet gum. Long ago, I turned off all email notifications on my phone, so the only buzz connecting me to the outside world is the response to whatever picture I have taken of my dog and texted to my family. Or it might involve going to any of the many fine museums in the area and challenging myself to just sit and look at just one painting for 10 minutes to really get to know that painting. I would love to do it longer, but 10 minutes feels like a good enough start. Even in a museum, art competes for our attention, and there are only so many chairs or benches to sit on. Now there are some paintings that I return to, paintings that I've looked at for 10 minutes or more that I now return to, if not as friends, at least as close acquaintances. In her book, How to Do Nothing, Jenny Odell writes about how to resist the attention economy. Odell invites us to take a protective stance toward ourselves, each other, and whatever is left of what makes us human, including the alliances that sustain and surprise us. She writes, I'm suggesting that we protect our spaces and our time for non-instrumental, non-commercial activity, for maintenance, for care, and for conviviality. And I'm suggesting that we fiercely protect our human animal nature against all technologies that actively ignore and disdain the bodies of other beings, and the bodies of the landscape that we inhabit. The attention economy runs on despair. The attention economy is what Odell wants us to escape. Odell continues on, of course, attention has its own margins. As I noted earlier, where there is a significant portion of people for whom the project of day-to-day survival leaves no attention for anything else. That's part of the vicious cycle too. This is why it's even more important for anyone who does have a margin, even the tiniest one, to put it to use in opening up margins further down the line. Tiny spaces can open up small spaces can open up bigger spaces. If you can afford to pay a different kind of attention, you should. What does any of this have to do with the Sabbath? I think it's important to encourage everyone to take the time to rest. It gives us the space and the time to imagine. It gives us the time to rest. Rabbi Arthur Green, in his book, These Are the Words, reminds us that the root of the word Shabbat means to cease or desist. To observe Shabbat means to cease our work life and break our daily routine every seventh day, making that day holy. Shabbat is to be a day of enjoying God's world rather than doing battle with it, a day of relaxation rather than struggle, a day to live in harmony rather than to achieve domination. In his book, Sabbath as Resistance, Walter Brueggemann writes that Sabbath is a way of reorienting ourselves, where our only charge is to love the God or good and to love our neighbors. The first communities that so valued Sabbath had as their taproot the emphasis on relationship and covenant over commodity. Anxiety is the first symptom of our society, which Sabbath is supposed to lessen or help us resist. Sabbath observing communities do away with the anxiety to have more, to make more, and to do more, because they believed that the eternal was able to rest at the end of creation. The eternal was not anxious about the full functioning of creation, or to put it more bluntly, God was not a workaholic. Sabbath rest and slowness feel subversive in a society addicted to work. When we think about the mission or vision of a church, we often call it imagining the work of the church. What if the next time we do mission and vision work here, we also took time to say, where is the rest of the church? Where is the recharge of the church? Where is the recreation, celebration, and fun of the church? Sabbath rest and slowness feel subversive in a society addicted to work. Think about how bad it feels for someone to catch us napping. It feels embarrassing. It feels almost funny to see someone nod off. But it's their body saying, nope, I need the rest right now. We need to listen to our bodies when they say it's time to sleep. I turn to the ministry of Tricia Hersey, which she calls the NAP ministry. It was created when Hersey was in the midst of divinity school, which is an exhausting thing to begin with. It's informed by various theologies: Black liberation theology, womanist theology, Afrofuturism, somatics, and community organizing. Her ministry is about claiming rest and napping as a spiritual practice. Sometimes when things are really tough, we forget about resting. We feel that it's unproductive. Hersey, in a recent interview, counters, saying rest is productive. When you are resting, you are being productive. I'm trying to reframe rest and deprogram people around the concept that if you aren't doing something in that classical sense, then you're not worthy. I want to deprogram that. And I want to uplift that when you're sleeping, you are actually doing something. You're honoring your body. You're giving your brain a moment to download new information. You're disrupting toxic systems by reclaiming rest. Science unfolds without our constant work. If we are able to put aside anxious work, we can focus on love of our neighbor. Focusing on relationships, of course, does not build up the bank account. It does something better. Brueggemann says it creates an environment of security and respect and dignity that reinforces the human project. My friends gathered here, we live in an attention economy, and it does not have to be this way. Sabbath, rest, and slowness feel subversive in a society addicted to work. I invite you to imagine as you leave this place, what are the ways that we can work to increase the margins of rest in our life? May it be so, and amen. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit. We will sing hymn number 163, for certain one of the only hymns inspired by a science fiction short story by the work of Robert Heinlein. This is called For the Earth Forever Turning. And so as we leave this friendly place, Let us take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways and to find a little bit more rest. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Amen. Go in peace.